A black man went to a luxury car store and was kicked out, but he came back. Jacob's heart raced as he stood in front of the glass doors of Elite Motors, the premier luxury car dealership in the city. The sleek, modern building gleamed under the afternoon sun, exuding an air of opulence and exclusivity. He took a deep breath, straightened his tie, and pushed open the door, stepping onto the polished marble floor. His eyes sparkled with anticipation as he imagined himself behind the wheel of one of the high-end vehicles showcased inside. The showroom was a symphony of luxury. Gleaming cars, each more beautiful than the last, stood in pristine rows under soft, flattering lights. The smell of new leather and polished chrome filled the air. Jacob took a moment to appreciate the grandeur of it all, feeling a surge of pride. He had worked hard to reach this point in his life, and today, he was ready to reward himself with his first luxury car. As he moved deeper into the showroom, he noticed the staff behind the sleek, minimalist desks. Their eyes followed him, and he could feel their scrutiny. Jacob approached a car that had caught his eye, a stunning, black sports model with sleek lines and an aggressive stance. He ran his hand over the smooth, cool surface, imagining the roar of the engine and the thrill of driving it. "Can I help you?" The voice was cold, almost dismissive. Jacob turned to see a tall, slim salesman with a sharp suit and an even sharper expression. The name tag read Charles. "Yes, I'd like to know more about this model," Jacob replied, his voice steady and polite. Charles looked him up and down, a flicker of disdain crossing his features. "Are you sure this is the right place for you? These cars are quite expensive." Jacob felt a pang of irritation but maintained his composure. "I'm aware. I'm interested in purchasing a car today." The salesman raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "Well, the base price for this model starts at $200,000. Are you prepared to discuss financing options?" Jacob's jaw tightened. "I'm prepared to pay in full." For a moment, Charles seemed taken aback, but his condescension quickly returned. "Of course. Follow me, and I'll get you some more information." He turned on his heel and walked away without waiting for a response. Jacob followed, his frustration growing with each step. Charles led him to a desk and began listing features and specifications in a bored, mechanical tone, as if reciting a script he had no interest in. "And the interior is customizable, though it might be out of your range," Charles added with a smirk. Jacob clenched his fists, his patience wearing thin. "I'd like to see the options," he said firmly. Charles sighed and retrieved the catalog, tossing it onto the desk. "Here. Take a look." As Jacob flipped through the pages, he felt the weight of Charles's judgment. It wasn't just skepticism, it was contempt. The realization stung, but Jacob reminded himself why he was there. He had earned this. He deserved to be treated with respect, regardless of the color of his skin or the clothes he wore. "Do you have any questions?" Charles asked, clearly impatient. "Yes," Jacob said, meeting his gaze. "What are the safety features on this model?" Charles's expression turned into a sneer. "Well, it's a high-performance vehicle, not a family sedan. Safety isn't exactly the priority." Jacob's temper flared. "Safety is always a priority," he said, his voice firm. "I want to know about the airbags, the stability control, and the crash test ratings." Charles rolled his eyes. "Fine. The car has front and side airbags, advanced stability control, and it's rated 5 stars in all crash tests. Happy?" Jacob nodded, though his satisfaction was marred by the salesman's rudeness. "And what about the warranty and service plans?" Charles sighed heavily. "Look, are you actually planning to buy this car? Because it seems like you're wasting both our time." The words hit Jacob like a slap. He stood up, his anger bubbling to the surface. "Yes, I am planning to buy. But not from someone who disrespects me." He turned and walked towards the exit, his heart pounding. He could hear whispers and snickers from the other staff members as he passed, but he kept his head high. Stepping outside, he took a deep breath, letting the cool air calm his nerves. As Jacob walked to his car, a sleek but modest sedan, he felt a mix of emotions, anger, humiliation, and a burning determination. He had faced prejudice before, but this felt different. It was blatant and unapologetic, a stark reminder of the obstacles he still had to overcome despite his success. Back at his office, Jacob paced the floor, replaying the encounter in his mind. His assistant, Lisa, noticed his agitation and approached. "Jacob, is everything okay?" He stopped and looked at her, his expression hardening with resolve. "No, it's not. But I'm going to make it right." He recounted the incident to Lisa, who listened with a growing look of concern. "That's unacceptable," she said. "You should report them." Jacob nodded. "I will. But first, I'm going to make sure they understand who they're dealing with." He picked up his phone and called his best friend, Marcus, a well-known figure in the automotive industry. "Marcus, I need your help," he began, explaining the situation. Marcus listened carefully, his voice calm but supportive. "I've got your back, Jacob. Let's make this right." The wheels were set in motion. Jacob wasn't just seeking revenge, he wanted to send a message that everyone deserved respect, regardless of their appearance. And with Marcus's help, he was about to make a return that no one at Elite Motors would forget. As the days passed, Jacob focused on his work with renewed intensity. Every meeting, every deal, every project was another step towards his goal. He felt a growing sense of purpose, driven by the desire to not only succeed but to pave the way for others who might face similar discrimination. Jacob's story was far from over. He had faced a setback, but it had only strengthened his resolve. The next time he walked into that showroom, it would be on his terms. And the staff at Elite Motors would learn a lesson they wouldn't soon forget. Jacob sat in his office, staring out the window at the bustling city below. The encounter at Elite Motors replayed in his mind like a broken record. The sting of humiliation had faded, replaced by a steely resolve. He wasn't just going to forget about it, he was going to make sure it never happened again to anyone else. The door to his office opened, and Lisa walked in, carrying a steaming cup of coffee. "I thought you might need this," she said, placing it on his desk. Jacob gave her a grateful smile. "Thanks, Lisa. I've been doing a lot of thinking." She took a seat across from him, her expression concerned. "You're not letting what happened at Elite Motors get to you, are you?" Jacob shook his head. "Not in the way you think. I'm determined to do something about it. Marcus and I have been working on a plan." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "A plan?" Jacob leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled. "Yeah. We're going to make them understand the importance of respect and equality, and we're going to do it in a way they won't forget." Lisa's eyes lit up with curiosity. "How are you going to do that?" Jacob smiled, a hint of mischief in his eyes. "You'll see." Later that day, Jacob met with Marcus at a trendy cafe downtown. Marcus, a tall man with an easy smile and a commanding presence, greeted him with a firm handshake. "Jacob, good to see you." "Good to see you too, Marcus. Thanks for meeting me on such short notice." Marcus waved it off. "Anything for you, man. Now, tell me more about this plan of yours." Jacob explained his vision, detailing how he wanted to not only expose the prejudice he faced but also promote a message of respect and equality. Marcus listened intently, nodding as Jacob spoke. "I like it," Marcus said finally. "But we need to make sure it has a real impact. We need the right people involved." Jacob nodded. "Exactly. And I was hoping you could help with that. You have connections in the automotive industry that could lend weight to our message." Marcus smiled. "I've got just the thing. There's a charity gala coming up, hosted by one of the biggest names in the luxury car market. It's the perfect opportunity to network and get influential people on board." Jacob's eyes lit up. "That's perfect. How do we get an invite?" Marcus grinned. "Leave that to me. Consider it done. Over the next few weeks, Jacob and Marcus worked tirelessly, reaching out to their networks and gathering support. They crafted a presentation that highlighted not just Jacob's experience but also the broader issue of discrimination in customer service. They aimed to show that respect and equality were not just moral imperatives but also good business practices. Finally, the night of the gala arrived. Jacob dressed in a tailored suit, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. This was his chance to make a difference. Marcus picked him up in a sleek, black luxury car, and they drove to the venue, a grand hotel adorned with glittering lights. The ballroom was a sea of elegance and opulence. Chandeliers sparkled overhead, and the guests, dressed in their finest attire, mingled and chatted over glasses of champagne. Jacob felt a surge of determination as he looked around. He was here to make a statement. Marcus led him through the crowd, introducing him to key figures in the industry. They met with CEOs, influencers, and philanthropists, each conversation another opportunity to share their vision. Jacob was articulate and passionate, his story resonating with many of the attendees. As the evening progressed, Jacob found himself talking to Vanessa Harris, a well-known advocate for diversity and inclusion in the corporate world. Vanessa listened intently as Jacob recounted his experience at Elite Motors. "That's unacceptable," Vanessa said, her tone firm. "No one should be treated like that, regardless of their background. I'm impressed by your determination to turn this into a positive change." Jacob smiled. "Thank you, Vanessa. It's important to me that we address these issues head-on. Would you be interested in supporting our initiative?" Vanessa nodded. "Absolutely. I can connect you with some key players who can help amplify your message." By the end of the night, Jacob had secured several influential allies. He felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing they were one step closer to achieving their goal. The following day, Jacob and Marcus sat in a conference room, surrounded by their team. "We made some great connections last night," Marcus said, looking around the table. "Now we need to capitalize on that momentum." Jacob nodded. "Agreed. Let's start by setting up meetings with the contacts we made. We need to keep the conversation going and make sure our message is heard." Over the next few weeks, Jacob and his team worked tirelessly, organizing meetings, drafting proposals, and refining their presentation. The support they received was overwhelming. Influential figures from various industries lent their voices to the cause, and soon, their initiative began to gain traction. One afternoon, Jacob received a call from Vanessa. "Jacob, I have some exciting news," she said. "I've managed to arrange a meeting with the CEO of Elite Motors. He's agreed to hear you out." Jacob's heart skipped a beat. This was the opportunity they had been waiting for. "That's fantastic, Vanessa. Thank you." The meeting was scheduled for the following week. Jacob spent the days leading up to it preparing meticulously. He knew this was his chance to make a real impact. Finally, the day arrived. Jacob and Marcus entered the sleek offices of Elite Motors, feeling a mix of anticipation and resolve. They were led to a conference room where the CEO, Mr. Thompson, waited. He was a tall, imposing man with a serious demeanor. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for meeting with us," Jacob began, shaking his hand firmly. "Please, have a seat," Mr. Thompson said, gesturing to the chairs. "I've heard a lot about your initiative, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say." Jacob and Marcus presented their case, detailing Jacob's experience and the broader issues of discrimination in customer service. They highlighted the importance of respect and equality, not just as ethical imperatives but as sound business practices that could enhance customer loyalty and brand reputation. Mr. Thompson listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. When they finished, he leaned back in his chair, considering their words. "Mr. Blake, your experience is troubling, and I apologize for the treatment you received," Mr. Thompson said finally. "We strive to provide exceptional service to all our customers, and clearly, we fell short. I'm committed to making changes to ensure this doesn't happen again." Jacob felt a surge of relief and satisfaction. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We appreciate your willingness to listen and take action. The meeting concluded on a positive note, with Mr. Thompson agreeing to implement diversity training for his staff and to promote a culture of respect and inclusion within the company. As Jacob and Marcus left the building, they exchanged a triumphant look. They had taken the first step towards real change. Jacob knew there was still much work to be done, but he felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was just the beginning. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the city as Jacob stood in front of Elite Motors once again. This time, he wasn't alone. A convoy of sleek, luxury cars lined the street, their occupants stepping out in elegant attire. Jacob felt a surge of pride and determination as he adjusted his suit jacket and walked towards the entrance. Behind him, Marcus exited his own high-end vehicle and joined Jacob at the door. "Ready for this?" Marcus asked, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Jacob nodded, a confident smile playing on his lips. "More than ready. Let's do this." They stepped inside the showroom, the familiar scent of new leather and polished chrome greeting them. The atmosphere was different this time. The staff, who had previously sneered and dismissed him, now looked on with a mix of curiosity and apprehension. The presence of influential figures from the automotive industry and high-profile clients who had accompanied Jacob was impossible to ignore. Jacob's eyes scanned the showroom, landing on Charles, the salesman who had treated him so poorly. Charles's face paled as he recognized Jacob, and his eyes widened in shock as he took in the entourage that had arrived with him. Jacob and Marcus made their way to the manager's office, where Mr. Thompson was waiting. The CEO had been true to his word, arranging a formal meeting to discuss the changes needed within the company. As they approached, Mr. Thompson stood up to greet them, his expression a mixture of professionalism and genuine interest. "Mr. Blake, Mr. Davis, welcome," Mr. Thompson said, extending his hand. "I'm glad you could make it." "Thank you for having us," Jacob replied, shaking his hand firmly. "We're here to ensure that what happened before is addressed properly." Mr. Thompson nodded, gesturing for them to sit. "Of course. Please, have a seat. I want to hear more about your experiences and what we can do to improve." Jacob and Marcus took their seats, and Jacob began recounting his initial visit in detail. He spoke with clarity and passion, emphasizing the need for respect and equal treatment for all customers. Mr. Thompson listened intently, occasionally nodding and taking notes. "I want to assure you that we are committed to making the necessary changes," Mr. Thompson said once Jacob had finished. "We've already started implementing diversity training for all our staff, and we're reviewing our policies to ensure this never happens again." Jacob appreciated Mr. Thompson's willingness to take action, but he knew that real change would require more than just policies and training. "I'm glad to hear that, Mr. Thompson," he said. "But I think it's also important to foster a culture of empathy and understanding within your team. It's about more than just following rules, it's about truly respecting every individual who walks through those doors." Mr. Thompson nodded thoughtfully. "I agree. We need to go beyond compliance and make sure these values are deeply ingrained in our company culture." As the meeting continued, Jacob and Marcus shared ideas on how to promote inclusivity and respect within the dealership. They discussed hosting workshops, creating mentorship programs, and actively engaging with diverse communities. Mr. Thompson was receptive to their suggestions, expressing a genuine commitment to change. After the meeting, Mr. Thompson offered to give Jacob and his entourage a tour of the showroom. As they walked through the rows of luxury cars, the staff watched with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Jacob could sense the shift in the atmosphere. There was a palpable tension, but also a sense of anticipation for what was to come. Charles, the salesman who had initially dismissed Jacob, approached hesitantly. "Mr. Blake, I wanted to apologize for my behavior last time. I was out of line, and I'm truly sorry." Jacob looked at him for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you, Charles. I appreciate your apology. I hope this experience has been a learning opportunity for you." Charles nodded fervently. It has, sir. I've been through the training, and I'm committed to doing better. Jacob could see the sincerity in Charles's eyes, and he felt a small sense of satisfaction. This was exactly what he had hoped for, a chance for real change and growth. As they continued the tour, Mr. Thompson led them to a private showroom area where the most exclusive models were displayed. "I thought you might appreciate a closer look at some of our top models," he said with a smile. Jacob's eyes widened as he took in the sight of the cars. Among them was the same black sports model that had caught his eye during his first visit. He approached it, running his hand over the sleek surface. This time, the moment felt different. It wasn't just about the car, it was about the journey and the victory that had brought him here. "Would you like to take it for a test drive?" Mr. Thompson asked, handing Jacob the keys. Jacob smiled, feeling a surge of excitement. Absolutely. The next few minutes were a blur of adrenaline and exhilaration as Jacob took the car for a spin. The engine roared to life, and he felt a rush of power as he accelerated down the road. The experience was everything he had imagined and more. When he returned to the showroom, his face was lit up with a broad grin. "That was incredible," he said, handing the keys back to Mr. Thompson. "I'm glad you enjoyed it," Mr. Thompson replied. "We would be honored if you chose one of our cars." Jacob nodded, feeling a sense of satisfaction. "I think I've made my decision." They finalized the purchase, and Jacob felt a sense of triumph as he signed the papers. It wasn't just about buying a car, it was about standing up for himself and making a difference. As he drove out of the showroom, his new black sports model gleaming in the evening light, he knew that this was just the beginning. The convoy of cars followed him, a powerful symbol of unity and progress. Jacob felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. He had faced adversity and emerged stronger. Now, he was ready to drive forward, not just for himself but for everyone who believed in respect, equality, and the power of standing up for what is right. As the city lights blurred past, Jacob smiled, knowing that his journey was far from over. This was his moment, and he was ready to seize it. Jacob stepped into the showroom of Elite Motors once again, but this time with a different perspective. The staff's attitude had noticeably changed since his last visit. There was a newfound respect in their eyes, and a sense of anticipation hung in the air. He walked confidently through the rows of luxury cars, taking his time to appreciate the details. As he explored, Charles approached him, a genuine smile on his face. "Mr. Blake, it's good to see you again. Is there anything I can assist you with today?" Jacob paused, looking at Charles with a thoughtful expression. "Yes, actually. I'd like to discuss a few things with you and your colleagues. Could you gather everyone in the lounge area?" Charles nodded eagerly. "Of course, sir. Right away." Within minutes, the staff of Elite Motors assembled in the spacious, elegant lounge area. Mr. Thompson stood nearby, watching with interest. Jacob could see a mixture of curiosity and nervousness in the faces of the employees. He took a deep breath, ready to address them. "Thank you all for joining me," Jacob began, his voice calm but firm. "I wanted to take this opportunity to share my experience and, hopefully, provide some insight into why respect and equality are so important in our interactions with customers." He paused, letting his words sink in. The room was silent, all eyes on him. Jacob continued, recounting his first visit to Elite Motors, the dismissive attitude, and the hurtful remarks. He spoke from the heart, describing how those actions had made him feel and how they reflected a deeper issue of prejudice. "I understand that we all have our biases," Jacob said, his tone gentle but serious. "But it's crucial to recognize them and work actively to overcome them. Every person who walks through those doors deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their appearance or background." Charles, standing at the front of the group, looked particularly moved. Jacob turned his attention to him. "Charles, I appreciate your apology and your commitment to change. It's a step in the right direction, but it's just the beginning." Charles nodded, looking genuinely contrite. "Thank you, Mr. Blake. I've learned a lot from this experience, and I'm dedicated to doing better. Jacob smiled, a sense of warmth spreading through him. That's all I ask. We all need to learn and grow. And it's not just about following protocols, it's about truly embracing the values of empathy and respect. He then turned to Mr. Thompson, who had been listening intently. Mr. Thompson, I want to thank you for taking my concerns seriously and implementing changes within your organization. It means a lot, not just to me, but to everyone who believes in equality. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, nodding. Thank you, Jacob. Your courage and determination have been inspiring. We are committed to fostering a culture of respect and inclusivity here at Elite Motors. Jacob's gaze swept across the room, seeing nods of agreement and thoughtful expressions on the faces of the employees. He felt a sense of accomplishment, knowing that his message had resonated. After the meeting, Mr. Thompson invited Jacob to a private lunch to discuss further steps. They sat in a cozy, upscale restaurant, the ambience quiet and refined. Over a delicious meal, they talked about implementing ongoing diversity training, community outreach programs, and ways to ensure that Elite Motors became a leader in promoting equality within the industry. We want to be more than just a luxury car dealership, Mr. Thompson said. We want to set an example for others to follow. Your input has been invaluable, Jacob. Jacob nodded, appreciating the sincerity in Mr. Thompson's words. I'm glad to hear that. It's important to lead by example, and I believe you have the potential to make a significant impact. As they discussed various initiatives, Jacob felt a growing sense of optimism. It was clear that Mr. Thompson was genuinely committed to making positive changes, and Jacob was eager to support these efforts. Later that afternoon, Jacob returned to the showroom to finalize the details of his purchase. The black sports model he had test-driven was waiting for him, gleaming under the showroom lights. Charles approached him, holding out the keys with a respectful smile. Congratulations, Mr. Blake. This is a fantastic choice, Charles said. Jacob accepted the keys, feeling a surge of satisfaction. Thank you, Charles. I'm looking forward to enjoying it. As Jacob drove the car out of the showroom, he felt a sense of triumph. It wasn't just about the car, it was about the journey and the change he had helped initiate. The road ahead seemed brighter, filled with possibilities. In the weeks that followed, Jacob continued to work closely with Mr. Thompson and his team. They organized workshops, inviting experts in diversity and inclusion to speak with the staff. They also set up mentorship programs, pairing employees with diverse backgrounds to foster understanding and collaboration. One particular afternoon, Jacob visited Elite Motors to attend one of these workshops. The atmosphere was vibrant, with employees actively engaging in discussions and activities designed to promote empathy and respect. Jacob sat at the back of the room, watching as Charles shared his own experiences and growth. It was a powerful moment, seeing how far they had come. The changes were tangible, and the impact was profound. After the workshop, Mr. Thompson approached Jacob, a satisfied smile on his face. Jacob, I can't thank you enough for your guidance and support. The difference it has made is incredible. Jacob shook his hand, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. It's been a team effort, Mr. Thompson. I'm just glad to see the positive changes taking root. As he left the showroom that day, Jacob felt a renewed sense of purpose. His journey had not only led to personal triumph but had also sparked meaningful change. The experience had reinforced his belief in the power of standing up for what is right and working together to build a more inclusive and respectful world. Driving his new car through the city streets, Jacob knew that this was just the beginning. There were more challenges ahead, but he was ready to face them with the same determination and resilience that had brought him this far. The lesson in respect had been learned, and now it was time to continue spreading that message, one step at a time. Jacob sat in his new black sports car, the city lights reflecting off its sleek exterior. The hum of the engine was a comforting reminder of how far he had come. He was on his way to the grand opening of a new community center, a project he had been passionately involved in for the past few months. This center was more than just a building, it was a symbol of hope and unity, a place where people from all walks of life could come together and find support. As he pulled up to the center, he saw a large crowd gathered outside. The building was modern and inviting, its glass facade glowing warmly in the evening light. Banners and signs highlighted the event, and there was a palpable sense of excitement in the air. Jacob stepped out of his car, greeted by enthusiastic waves and smiles from the attendees. Marcus was waiting for him near the entrance, his face beaming with pride. "Jacob, this is incredible. Look at all these people." Jacob smiled, feeling a surge of emotion. "Yeah, it's amazing. I can't believe how far we've come." They walked into the building together, passing through the bustling lobby filled with community members, volunteers, and local officials. The walls were adorned with artwork created by local artists, and the air was filled with the sound of laughter and conversation. Jacob felt a deep sense of satisfaction, knowing that this center would make a real difference in people's lives. Inside the main hall, a stage had been set up for the evening's speeches and performances. Jacob and Marcus made their way to the front, where they were joined by Vanessa Harris and Mr. Thompson. Vanessa had been instrumental in securing funding for the center, and Mr. Thompson had generously contributed on behalf of Elite Motors. Vanessa hugged Jacob warmly. "I'm so proud of you, Jacob. This center is a testament to your hard work and dedication." "Thank you, Vanessa. It means a lot to have your support," Jacob replied, his voice filled with gratitude. Mr. Thompson extended his hand to Jacob. "You've done an extraordinary job, Jacob. This center is going to change lives." Jacob shook his hand, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Your support has been invaluable." As the event began, the room quieted, and Jacob took the stage. He looked out at the sea of faces, feeling a wave of emotion. This was his moment, the culmination of months of hard work and determination. "Good evening, everyone," Jacob began, his voice strong and steady. "Thank you all for being here tonight. This center represents more than just a building, it represents a vision of unity, respect, and support for our community. It's a place where everyone is welcome, where we can come together to learn, grow, and thrive." He paused, letting his words sink in. The audience was silent, their attention fully on him. This journey hasn't been easy. It started with a difficult experience, one that opened my eyes to the importance of standing up for what is right. But it also showed me the power of resilience and the strength we have when we come together. Jacob continued, sharing the story of his encounter at Elite Motors, the changes that followed, and the incredible support he had received from so many people. He spoke about the importance of respect and equality, not just in business but in every aspect of life. "Tonight, we celebrate not just the opening of this center but the beginning of a new chapter for our community," Jacob concluded. "Together, we can create a brighter future, one where everyone is valued and respected." "Thank you." The audience erupted into applause, and Jacob felt a rush of pride and joy. He stepped off the stage, greeted by hugs and congratulations from friends and supporters. The rest of the evening was filled with performances, speeches, and celebrations, each moment reinforcing the sense of unity and purpose that had brought them all together. As the event drew to a close, Jacob found a quiet moment to reflect. He stepped outside, the cool evening air refreshing after the warmth of the crowded hall. He looked up at the stars, feeling a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. This journey had been challenging, but it had also been incredibly rewarding. Marcus joined him, a thoughtful expression on his face. "You did it, Jacob. You really made a difference." Jacob smiled, feeling a sense of camaraderie and gratitude. "We did it, Marcus. I couldn't have done it without you." Marcus clapped him on the back. "What's next for you, Jacob?" Jacob looked out at the city, the lights twinkling in the distance. "I think it's time to keep pushing forward, to continue advocating for respect and equality. There's still so much work to be done." Marcus nodded. "Count me in. Wherever you go, I'll be right there with you." Jacob felt a swell of emotion, knowing he had a true friend by his side. "Thanks, Marcus. That means a lot." The two friends stood in comfortable silence, reflecting on the journey they had shared. The night was filled with possibilities, and Jacob knew that this was just the beginning. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that he could make a difference. As he got back into his car and drove through the city streets, Jacob felt a sense of exhilaration. The road ahead was open, filled with endless opportunities. He had faced adversity and emerged stronger, ready to continue his mission of promoting respect and equality. The community center stood as a beacon of hope, a reminder of what could be achieved when people came together with a common purpose. Jacob knew that the journey was far from over, but he was ready for whatever came next. This was his story, and he was determined to make every chapter count. As he drove away, the city lights fading into the distance, Jacob felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had made a powerful impact, and he was just getting started. The future was bright, and he was ready to embrace it with open arms.